What do you do when your husband shuts down? And how are you supposed to get him to open up? I think I've got the answer. Welcome back. It's Victoria Doss with I Do Now What, where I share all my marriage experience, tips, and hacks that I found to help you not have to go through the same debacles and hurdles that I had to go through. So your husband is shutting down. He is silent. He's distant. He's not making eye contact with you. He's not talking to you. He has just shut down. What are you supposed to do? Well, let's look at the things that you have tried to do and how that turned out for you. I'll gladly tell you my experiences that failed. The most common one that I did was, what's wrong? What's wrong? Do you want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Are you mad at me? Did I do something? Can you tell me what's wrong? Can we talk about it now? Can we talk about it in an hour? Don't be that wife. Not only biblically is that wrong because it says that a nagging wife and a quarrelsome wife is just like, don't be that wife. Men do not like to be pressured into anything. People don't like to be pressured into anything and speaking before their thoughts are gathered, but men especially, it's disrespectful. If your husband does not share with you immediately when something is bothering him, when he's frustrated about something, or when something's just on his mind and he's just really deep in thought about it, that's okay. First of all, if he doesn't share immediately, he does not have to share immediately. He is a man. I know you are used to chatting with your girlfriends growing up, female friends. You guys talk about everything. Oh my gosh, you guys had sex? Tell me how it went. Like, y'all talk about everything immediately. That's not how men work. That's not how husbands work. And that is okay. Now, I'm not going to say that husbands should just brush everything under the rug and never talk about anything. That is not right either. There is a middle ground. There is. But to tread around that and to find that middle ground, one, you've got to be respectful. He's not going to hear you if you're not respectful. That's a whole other episode that we're going to dive into later. But this one is about getting him to open up. If you look back at your track record for whenever he's come to you with stuff or whenever you've asked him to share his feelings or share his thoughts about things, think back to how those conversations went. For me, in the beginning, a lot of these conversations, it would turn into an argument. Him trying to vent to me, my husband trying to vent to me, would turn into me not liking what he was saying and then getting defensive and then arguing with him and playing the victim. Do you think that made him want to talk to me and share his thoughts and feelings the next time or the next time or the next time? No, it did not. So before we get any further in this episode, I really want you to think back to your track record. When you go to your girlfriend or your mom or a friend, whatever, you go to somebody and you share with them how they make you feel. When you share with them determines if you are going to continue to share stuff with them, right? If they seem super judgmental and they just put you down, or maybe you have a business idea. It's a great business idea. Oh, I want to do this. Or you have a dream, you have a goal, you want to do this. And they're just oh, that's dumb. You're never going to do that. You're never going to get there. Whatever. You're not going to tell them anything else about that dream or that goal or any other aspirations that you have, right? The same way works with husbands. You as a wife are supposed to be a peace for your husband. So if he comes to you and he's bothered, there's probably not many people that he can go to unless he's got really tight guy friends or he's really close with his mom. It's probably not very likely that he's going to share stuff with his mom, really. As a guy, you are supposed to be the main person that he can go to share stuff with. And if you cut him off from doing that, he has nowhere else to put that except for bottling it up. Now, how can you be less defensive whenever he comes to you with maybe things that are about you. Nobody likes to hear about themselves. Nobody likes to hear that they're doing something wrong, or that they could be doing something better, or that, someone doesn't like what they're doing. Nobody really likes to hear that. But you have to train yourself to be able to take criticism nicely, like respectful conversations, be able to take criticism, internalize it, and make those changes. If you get hung up in, I can't believe he said this about me, your mindset is going to switch from listening to responding. If your husband does not feel like you are listening to him when he is venting to you, when he's sharing his thoughts, he's sharing his frustrations, he is going to stop coming to you. So you can listen, you can share your opinions or your thoughts or your feedback if that's what he's wanting, but be mindful when you do that. If you need to take a few days and process whatever he said and remove your emotions from it and then come back to the table and discuss whatever he said, respond to it, do that. That's much better. That's a much better approach than him just never opening up to you again. So that I kind of skipped ahead into how to get him to open up, but that's a good way to get him to open up. As far as what to do when he shuts down, though, let's say you're already in the mode where he doesn't share stuff with you, or maybe he doesn't share stuff with you quick enough. That was my thing too. My husband I didn't understand this for a long time in marriage, but my husband would, let's say we were disagreeing about something, or maybe one of us did something, and then he would shut down. In my mind, he would shut down. He would become distant, not really talking, just kind of to himself. And I didn't like that. That affected me. And so I would be like, you need to talk to me now. Like, I don't like how this is between us. Like, I want to restore the connection now. Please talk to me now. Tell me what you're thinking now. Now. Let's talk about it now. That was not the right way to go about it. And I didn't know this, but he was spending that time going to God about it, praying about it, going back and forth over the situation or the scenario, trying to was I wrong? Did I do this? Does this line up with what God would say? Going through the whole thing, the morals of it. And I'm over here just ready. I'm just ready to talk about it. Whether he's up here or down here, I want to talk about it now. That led to a lot of arguments. If he's up here, he needs to get down here before we talk about it. And I was not giving him that time. So when he was up here and I'd be like, let's talk about it now, that's how he would come into the conversation. Heated. And of course, I am not going to, as a wife, me trying to listen to someone vent when they're up here, especially if it's about me or our marriage, I'm not going to internalize that information very well. I'm going to get defensive. So I was not setting us up for success when I'm just like, let's talk about it right now, even though you're right here and I'm right here. Not setting us up for success. I had to learn to wait till he came down here, and I had to stay down here. Then we have discussions. We don't have arguments. We have not had arguments in our marriage in a long time. Long time. We've been married for 10 years. We have discussions. We have learned to come into conversations down here. We have learned to give each other time to get down here before we enter these conversations. You would think it's a simple concept, but it took a long time to learn. At least it took a long time for me to learn. Now, I will say it is not okay for a husband to be not talking to you for 5 days. Do what now? You don't need 5 days to go from here to here. That's not cool. If y'all are disconnected for 5 days like that, that's giving a lot of room for the devil and for temptation and for anger. Just seething anger and just that's not biblical. It's not. Maybe the way that men process that and the way that women process that is different. It might not affect men that much to just withdraw completely from their spouse for 5 days, but women, it affects us. It affects us very much. And if that goes on a lot, women will start to get numb. Like they will emotionally withdraw from the marriage and will become numb. Nobody wants that. Again, that leaves a lot of room for the devil to come in. It does. Whether you want to talk about it or not, it does. You need to respectfully, not during the heat of an argument, but some other time when you guys are on a good note, set up boundaries. Set up the system that you're going to go with. Hey, if you want to think about stuff and be in your thoughts and be to yourself, can you limit it to, this amount of time? You don't even need to put a time on it. Ask your husband, what is a reasonable time frame that you think we should say is the max before it's time to talk about it? You guys can come to an agreement on that. Maybe that's 12 hours a day and a half. You guys can talk about it. But a week? No. 2 weeks? What? A month? Are y'all married? I want to add something else to this. Women, we like to assume. And I know for me, if Henry is silent about what's bothering him, I go into assuming it must be about this. Maybe it's because there were dishes in the sink. Maybe it was because, it's been 2 days since he's had sex. Maybe it's been like I just start going and going and going and going. And it irks me until I can figure out what it is. Usually I don't really figure out what it is until he tells me. Half the time, it's not even about me. I just do a lot of worrying for no reason because I'm assuming. Half the time, it might be like he's thinking about finances and future and, he's a provider, that whole mindset that I don't understand because I'm not the provider. I'm the caregiver, nurturer, that's my role. He's having stresses about his role, and maybe he has an off day thinking about it, stressing about it, or something like that. And I go off into a tangent of, oh, well, he's upset because of this, probably because I didn't do this or I did this. Save yourself the frustration of things that you don't even need to be frustrated about. Save yourself. Just wait. Wait on the assumptions. Just try not to assume. I did this experiment one time. I probably need to do it again. I did this experiment like 6 or 7 years ago where Henry was upset, and instead of just letting it cook in the air of me trying to figure out why he was upset, why we can't talk about it, me asking him when can we talk about it, instead of doing that, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to pretend like nothing's wrong. That's what I did. I was like, I'm going to pretend there's nothing wrong, and I'm just going to go and do whatever I normally do. And that's exactly what I did. My mood didn't change. I was still just around the house, playing music, doing everything that I normally would, interacting with him in the ways that I normally would. That was a very successful experiment. I don't know why I haven't repeated that. But I was not nagging him. I was not on his tail every 2 seconds asking if we could talk about it. I was not, my countenance did not change. I didn't withdraw and become distant. None of that. I just went on with life. And guess what happened? Everything was fine a few hours later. I'm going to try that again. It's been so long. I don't know. I remember doing this. It was like 7 years ago. I remember doing this one time. And I remember how fast it was remedied. And I didn't do anything to remedy it. It was the absence of me doing something. I don't know. I don't know if that was a one-time thing. Try it. You guys try it and tell me if it works. It's like a secret. Maybe this is a secret that I know, but I didn't know works all the time. Do not let that man steal your joy. I know he's your husband, but you cannot let your mood be so connected to his mood that if he's having an off day, you're having an off day. Or that if he's withdrawn, then you withdraw. Don't do that. That does not help anybody. Go along respectfully with your emotions throughout the day, with your words, with your actions. Let him have space to brew whatever is brewing in his mind. Let him have space and time to go to God and all that stuff. Pray about it, sleep over it. Okay. Go binge your favorite TV shows with some popcorn. Cook a steak. Let him smell a steak on the stove that you made just for you. Another point. This should be a whole episode by itself as well. Does your husband feel like you listen and then do? Do you listen and then do? First, we got to get the listening part and not, just listening to respond. You have to be listening to understand. Are you listening to understand? And if you understand what he's saying, do you then go and do it? There's a big difference. If those two things do not happen, he's going to feel like he's talking to a brick wall. If he's coming to you with things that he really needs you to change, or he really needs you to step up and do, or he really needs you to stop doing or start doing. Even if we get to the point where, okay, you're not defensive and you're attacking him whenever he vents to you, great. That's step one. But what are you doing with the information that he gives you? There's got to be some kind of transformation, or he's going to feel like he's talking to a brick wall. Henry used to say that to me all the time, that he felt like he was talking to a brick wall, because I would hear him say he needs this done, or me to stop doing this, or I should cut, this friend over here is toxic. He can see it clear as day. And I'm just like, still hanging out with a friend, talking to a brick wall. Or he would say that his voice wasn't big enough. If my friends tell me stuff and I'm like, oh yeah, sure. Okay, great. Let's go do that. You know what? That's a great idea. We should do that. Oh, you know what? You're right. No, yeah. If I'm like that with my friends, just immediately receptive, and I listen and do with them, or my family, or whoever, coworkers, whatever. But when he comes to me with something, I listen and don't, or I don't listen. Like I just don't even get to step two, just completely step one. He's going to feel like his voice is not big enough. Everybody else's voice matters more than his, the person that I made a covenant with to spend the rest of my life with. What kind of sense does that make? That would irritate me too. Do you think that your husband would feel like you love him if you cannot prioritize what he is saying to you? Maybe you're not married yet. Maybe you're a girlfriend and your boyfriend who wants to be your fiance. He wants to be your husband. He wants to propose to you, but he is asking things and you're just like, no. But your husband, but your girlfriends, your boss, your mom, literally everybody else in life is like, hey, you need to do this, or you need to stop doing this. And you're like, sure, yes, great idea. You got it. That steps into the territory of you're not showing submissive qualities. Not that you necessarily have to be submissive to a boyfriend. You should not be submitting to your boyfriend, but he's going to need to see that you have submissive qualities in order to be like, oh yeah, she'd be a great wife. If you say no to everything that he says, why is he going to marry you? Now, that's probably another episode too. We have a lot of episodes to catch up on, don't we? Yeah, I have a lot of recording to do. All right, that's all that I have for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Be sure to check out my next episode, which is the one thing that changed my marriage, like transformed it night and day. The one thing that I did. I'll see you guys over there.